Welcome to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews with people in hip-hop culture, based out of New England. Leeds. All right, I think I got it. Hi, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, everything's good. Everything's good. No rain, no snow. That was all yesterday. We all melted out.
Well, it could change in a few hours or to another day or so.
Right. Weather
Very
been
interesting. Yeah. Is it me or is it just like the winter completely out of control?
Yeah, it's a glitch in the weather matrix. One day it's 66 degrees, then it's 9, then it's 50. And so I don't think that, somebody's not working upstairs right.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about it? Does it make you nervous? Do you not care? Or, I mean, does it feel like something's changed or what? Because it feels like to me something's changed.
Yeah, it's changing, like the world does, but it's no different than days where, it been in the wintertime been almost 70 degrees. And I remember this as a teenager where, some of the weather, I remember when I shot the crowd pleaser video and it was snowing in May.
Yeah, I remember snow in May.
Woke up in the morning, it wasn't snowing, started shooting the video and it's snow coming down. We like, wow, I got on a hoodie. It was snowing, but it wasn't cold. So that was what was weird about it. And I remember one other time it snowed in October and trees was falling down because the trees was confused. And they was like, wait, this is not supposed to happen now. This is October. And it was because it was too early. The trees with just the weight of the snow. And it was weird. So, I chalk it up to that.
I remember it snowing in October, not too long. No, probably like 8 years ago because I had a plan. I was going to go. Right. I was going to go to like Six Flags that day, catch it right before it closed.
See?
And it snowed. They shut the park down. It was the only time I could go.
Same day, exactly. They were confused.
I was so mad. I was like driving, like
Right.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast. We got a very special guest today, Mr. The Sensei of the Artifacts.
Peace, y'all. Peace.
Peace. It's funny because I'm always like hesitant to put the in front of artifacts.
Right.
Look, you know what I mean?
I just had this conversation. It's like Batman. You should it be called Batman? Should be called the Batman because the last the Batman movie just came out.
Because you'll always say the artifacts, right? Like you're always going to say put the in it, but it's not really. The group is just artifacts.
Right.
Why did you not put the in front of it? It was just because it would say that would be easier, right?
Well, technically, yeah. But once we started going in the computer and we had to incorporate the name, it was a lot of other things called the artifacts. It was like, so we had to be like the only hip hop group with this name. So it could be a rock group named the Artifacts and another person over here. And you look in Google, you look in the Google search, you'll see there's a lot of artifact stuff out there, with other people. And it's not that we've forgotten about, it's just that in this form, it's like multiverse. It's like in this universe, we are this. And then it got the Jared Leto has a rock group that he is either in, but they did a documentary on, and it's called Artifacts. So when you look at that as a documentary, you'll see Jared Leto's group in that documentary. So it's weird. So there's a lot associated with it, but we just had to make sure at the time we used it that it wasn't something somebody already had. So it became the Batman effect.
Yeah. And it's like you didn't have Google back then either, right? So it's not like you just Google it.
But it was the internet. You know what I'm saying? It was early stages, but we really had to. Yeah, we really had to go. I remember this day we looked on the Jennifer Norwood. She looked online and we had to search. Even in I think it was a directory. It was something we was looking at. Well, we had to keep going to see and make sure it wasn't. So she said, maybe there's not a hip hop group name there. I said, I'm sure it's not. But it was still, she can see whatever she was looking at. It was just many artifacts in the system to where it got to where we was cool with just having, like you said, just artifacts as a name rather than putting the in front of it, because that was like pretty much the only way we could do it.
And you're lucky too that you kind of stood out with that name too, because like you said, Googling artifacts and all this stuff, it can block people from actually seeing
Yeah,
the hip hop group.
yeah,
That's something the artists really got to pay attention to when they're creating a
yeah.
name. It's like you got to kind of Google it and see how it lands, and if it gets
Especially if you use
buried,
somebody else's name as far as like a real person,
right?
You got
Like
a
you're
lot
gonna
of
get
people using,
buried.
yeah, and you might have to change it. A lot of people change the spelling, stuff like that, so that'll work.
Yeah.
But for us, it was like, we wasn't thinking of putting a Z or anything like that. It was
I'm
like leave it
surprised you
there.
didn't do the Z. I'm very surprised you didn't do the Z.
And I just even thought about that just now. I never even thought about it ever. Because
I
it was
did the
just
Z.
it all came from the thought of us trying to change the name of the group from That's Them.
Right.
And just a thought bubble came over my head on the train, and just artifacts, and we just get all like, okay, we got the Thames House, and we just, again, no Google. We knew what it meant, but let's find a deeper meaning in
Right.
writing to see what it was a better look. So once we saw all the words we saw, we was like, yeah, it's still saying what we thought, but it looks better when you say it like this. So it stuck.
That's like with me with Leedz. Leedz has a Z on it.
Right.
Which could have been S. There, it was supposed to
But
be
then
an S, but
you would have been overseas then, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, it would have been in UK.
Right.
But back then the Z was okay when I started the company. But then I
Mhm.
regretted the Z, but now I'm cool with the Z. I've always gone back and forth with it.
And it's also the logo. Your logo is, very, it's one of a kind. So that even
Yeah.
helped us with the Artifacts logo, where that was the same effect. People already put us in the, with graffiti because of the logo, and there was nothing else that looked like it when you see it rather.
It's funny you bring that up because the guy that did your logo also, what was his name?
Now, I was corrected on one of the interviews I did with Peter Rosenberg. Now,
Oh, okay.
the company Third Rail, I say it was a crew out in LA. So Dante, it was a guy named Dante. I can't remember his last name right now, but I would say, did most of this, showed me the artwork. But once somebody saw me speaking on it, they showed me. I would have to go on my Instagram to look at the crew name. I know it was an AOK. I'm out, no CBS. So I think these people was affiliated with the company. Because if you remember,
Okay.
if you go back in the day, you look it up when we done. You go on Google and you look up Third Rail. As far as back in the day, t-shirt company, they did a lot of the artwork for that line as well. So when I saw even the logo we did, I was like, yo, this is the Third Rail company dudes that did this. So, because I don't live in LA and I don't know the history so much, but I learned some stuff too.
Because I heard you say that company also did the Funk Dubious album cover, right?
Yeah. Artwork,
Which just came on my phone today, in the weird algorithm, they show me, how they show you everything that's related to your interests. And that album cover came out. And I remember how dope that album cover was. I really loved that album cover. So I was like, oh, that's the one of the guys that did the artifacts too. I was like, that's dope. They were really good.
And he did
But
a
anyway,
lot of the Cypress Hill artwork as well.
yeah.
Even when you look
Which
at
is
it was crazy. He did all the way up to Black Sunday.
incredible.
Yeah.
They did up to Black Sunday, or did they do Black Sunday too?
Up to Black Sunday was the last one I know he probably worked on.
So did they do the Skull and Bones back then?
Yeah, all that stuff.
I love that stuff. I talked about that in a private previous interview. I was like, that whole imaging Cypress did with the Skull and Bones was like some of my favorite stuff back then.
I thought that was crazy, and the way he even did the logo as far as with our album cover on the front, he really had a rock and put the metal on top of it. So when I saw this, he showed it to the label, like, see how they like this. We saw that, we're like, wow, he actually dug a hole in the ground and put all this stuff around it. But just to see the logo screwed on to the cement block was crazy.
And were they using Photoshop back then like they do now?
Yes. But this was early Photoshop.
Right. It must have been much more harder to pull stuff off back then, I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, he showed us how he had to do the piece on the wall, like an actual, and then take the picture of that. So a lot of the pictures, Martha Cooper from the Subway art book gave him some pictures from that, where he used the background with the building and the sky. That's all from the book, and they just layered everything on top. So we once we saw the because he showed us a piece wasn't even artifacts. It was something he did, and it had Snoop on his face on there instead of ours, just to show us what he could do. And we was like, whoa, okay, this, but to see the whole thing like that, and it's still a lot of people that think that train real, and it's not.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
people think that train real, bro. We've been on the road, a lot of cats, upset. Oh, I really thought that was real. It's like, nah, we wasn't painting trains in '94 and the trains, 2 train yard, the whole thing like that. And I told him, look at the cover and you see the windows, and you can't get paint on windows like that. So
I got friends out here that do the train yard tag, and have gotten into some serious trouble.
Right, trying to just that piece too perfect, to be having it like that, to say we was out on the street doing it.
Yeah, my buddy was describing it to me, the rush of doing it. He would be like, you're sneaking into train yard. It was like the rush. It wasn't so much the art, it was the rush of doing it. It was like they were addicted to the rush. They could tag really good, but it was like the whole process of sneaking in and doing something you weren't supposed to do was really the motive, I think, behind what they were doing.
That's the addiction of it. Even I remember Tame told me a few times he was in some train yards in New York. He said, "Oh man, my foot hit the third rail, my boot." He said he paid a lot of things they had to run all the time because doing that you always have to have somebody looking out, but you're always gonna be hurt because you got the spray can shaking and the sound of the aerosol coming out. So the paint coming out. So it's just you bound to, you would see nice ones and detailed ones, but not a lot.
I got one guy I know out here that just can't stay out of jail for graffiti.
Once you get a certain age, you got to.
He's just like he keeps getting into trouble. I'm just like, you're gonna have to stop, man. You're gonna have to stop.
Yeah, they got now. He can go to City Hall and get permission for a wall now.
Yeah, I mean there are designated spots they make. How do you feel about it, like graffiti versus because I come across a lot of people that are like, I don't like graffiti when it's legal. Like it's not the same. And I'm like,
that's silly to say. That's silly to say because I'll tell you, like I have a perfect example. My man Buku won. He's out in Oakland right now. My man paints all the time, and he does legal walls where for businesses. He's painting for the Oakland A's, Golden State Warriors, a lot of the sports teams out there, a lot of stores, a lot of beachfront areas. He paints all over everywhere he goes. I've seen it like where we stayed at a Airbnb. We pulled into the Airbnb and the garage. He said he just got out the car and looked around, and I said, "Don't get no ideas, Buku." He said, "Oh, I think I probably could work something out with the Airbnb dude right now." I said, "What you gonna do?" He had a talk with this guy. Later on that afternoon, he comes to me. He said, "Look, we're gonna get maybe like 150 off the Airbnb for tonight." I said, "What you mean? Maybe for the stay?" We was only staying there 2 or 3 days, but he painted the garage for the owner of the spot because he said, "Look, this looked terrible." It was like gang sign tags and everything. So he painted it in there, and they came out dope. Man, he did it like real quick. So when you're doing it like that, and you have a lot of comfortability in painting, you ain't got to rush. It comes a better job comes out of it when you don't have to feel like you're sneaking around and you got to get arrested because there's a lot of days. We in the times now where people and businesses are more inclined to say, "Yeah, you know what? If it's gonna look nice, go ahead." Because all I'm gonna do is paint over that, and somebody else gonna come and tag it up again. So they just get them to do it, and it look nice. So I don't really think it takes away from the actual painter painting on the wall just because somebody else wished for them to get in trouble.
Well, yeah, again, it's the rush, right? It's that versus the rush of doing something you're not supposed to. I mean, I worked in music venue for almost 20 years, and like graffiti tagging walls was just something we always dealt with.
I'll be there.
You can't get rid of it. We'd cover it up and it just come off. They'd tag it up again. It was just what's going to happen owning a venue.
Yeah, so it's better to get somebody to actually do it for real.
Right. I'll go back to Newark, New Jersey. That's where you were born and raised?
Yeah.
Talk about that experience growing up in Newark, New Jersey, because, obviously hip hop is a big part in New Jersey. It gets over, I talk about it back then versus New York, because you must have been overshadowed a lot because you had talent, But New York is the Mecca. Talk about growing up there.
And that's the thing about it, not being from New York, and
Right.
especially early when it came out. So like 12 years old, 13, I'm seeing, Rocksteady Crew on TV, on Flashdance commercials and movies, just like everybody else, and it got to be the thing to do for me at the early age, because the rhyme part, it wasn't so much there where I was, I heard the breaks and, super rhymes and all this stuff like that, but I started participating first as a B-boy. So doing that, sharpening your skills against other crews at home, I started going to New York to Washington Square Park with my parents. They go over there into the park and chill. And I saw real B-boys there. I couldn't get myself to go out there and do anything because I'm just like, watching.
Right.
Back home, it was different. So once it got to be more of, as far as on the graffiti side too, I think a lot of people when they look at Jersey, they don't think that we're right there. We right across the water from New York. We can stand on certain streets where we live here and see New York, the skyline right there. So I think it's always not being from New York. It was considered Southern, just not from the real. And we had all of this happening out here as far as graffiti with Tame and my man Porno, Malik, my man Max 165, J. Rue Energy. So my man Two Nasty Nas, Jerry Gant. It was a lot of people here that was doing a lot of stuff, but because, like I said, you're not from there. Once we got into the music part of it, though, it started changing. A lot of people started figuring out Sugar Hill Records was started out in New Jersey, and
Really?
then seeing a lot of Sylvia Robinson and Sugar Hill is from out here. So, they became
maybe that's why New Yorkers always hated the song so much.
Right, yeah, but people also knew Cass wrote that verse for Big Bang.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
knew that part. But I think
Jersey stole the track.
Right. But here, our early dudes besides them, became to be, Latif, Lakim Shabazz, Mark 45 King, listening to Red Alert on the radio back then. You heard him playing these dudes' records. And, that's when we started seeing like, okay, you started finding out a little bit more. And that's where Queen Latifah came from that camp. And Tretch was in the Flavor Unit and Chill Rob G. So those were the earlier voices, rhyme-wise, Jersey had to look up to, when it came to that. And then it became to be, Naughty and Redman. And that's when New York started understanding that, okay, we was different from New York.
Whoa. Uh-oh. We got a little bit of a technical difficulty here. L, I don't know if you can hear me, but you froze on me. Bummer.
Doing stuff. We was
L,
doing it.
You froze a little bit on me.
Yeah, I seen the screen disappear. You hear me?
Yeah, you're good now. What were you saying?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now I was saying, well, here with the MC, we had New York started understanding that we had a sound, not sound like each other. Jersey didn't sound like the same MCs, like kind of like New York. You can hear dudes from Queens, you can hear dudes from Brooklyn, Uptown. You can tell where certain people may be from. Out here is not the same, but we just had a certain style of music we may all do. But it started getting New York to understand and see everybody that came out, they liked, but it was because it was similar to New York, but we just had to bring that out.
How far away was Newark from the city?
Man, like driving, like right now we could jump in the whip without too much traffic, like 20, 25 minutes.
It's nothing.
No. I just tell people in New York, only thing different about us, we got different cables than y'all. But we see the same thing on TV. We watch the Video Music Box. We see all this stuff. We only separating us is water.
Right, because in New England we deal with the same thing too, kind of, because like Boston's the hub, right? But like New England kind of all goes into Boston for the music community. So it's kind of like the same thing, not the same thing, but it's Boston's the hub.
It's like Boston is in New York,
right? Out here, you know what I mean? And but the whole New England scene goes to Boston to see shows, and all the artists are from all outside here. but you'd have to go to Boston to kind of get out there, though. You
Right.
know.
Yeah, and because there's not, for some people, I'm not. A lot of people I know out there. I work with my man Detention. I know he's in Lowell.
Yep.
Edo's in Roxbury.
Yep.
You got Rex. I think Rex is in Roxbury. I can't remember.
He's originally from Lawrence,
right? Okay. Yes,
Massachusetts,
indeed. Yeah,
which is
yeah.
about 30 to 40 minutes north of Boston.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Bullies, everybody from outside of the main city is the one that's popping, but you got to always go like us to New York to perform and do everything you need to show off.
Yeah. What about Trenton? I know Poor Righteous Teachers were coming out of Trenton. Was there a unity there?
Now, Trenton, I would say that was Poor Righteous Teachers was it, and we must not ever forget them because they were the one group out of New Jersey, even from being from Trenton, is no say on where you can come from to do all this stuff. So, but because they came the way they came from Trenton, we were all paying attention to Trenton, like, because the main hub, even for like how you say with Boston, Newark, this whole area where I'm at, East Orange, Naughty, Redman, Lords, even K-Def, Larry O, right there in Passaic. If it's not immediately from say like Penn Station, Newark Airport, like once you pass a certain point, like it's like going out to South Jersey, it starts to become Philly. It's not too many people that's out that way, no different than with Trenton. So you go past Patterson and you start hitting the highway, there's a big gap in between where we hang out. And then when you talk about Trenton, because Trenton is right before Philly and Pennsylvania, I'm sorry. So it's like they came so on their own thing, so you loved it. And a lot of people only mention the names I mentioned because we're right there, you know what I'm saying? But when you venture out into Jersey, it became to be like Poor Righteous Teachers. And they showed a lot of people that they were just artists. It didn't matter where they came from. They was from New Jersey. And the reason why you knew they was from Trenton, because of that damn bridge with that sign on there. But we knew that's when we out there going to a PA.
Yeah. My dad lived in Medford, New Jersey. I don't know if you know where that is.
It's
more close. Yeah, it's more on the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania side.
Yeah.
But he was out there. I used to visit out there. They were all Phillies fans out there.
See?
They were all Phillies fans.
They ain't liking no Jets and Giants down there.
Nah, they like Philly.
Yeah, Philly, they get Philly stations and TV out there. Like I said, once you get past Trenton, is PA. That's it.
So New Jersey Drive comes out, and I heard you mention like everybody in Jersey hated the movie because it was so not Jersey, right? Like
definitely not.
But this is like a major movie, right? When hip hop starts making movies, right? Mm-hmm. And we got Boys in the Hood, you got Juice, now you got all these movies coming out. Now you got New Jersey Drive, right? But you guys are like, there's no credibility in this, right? There's nobody. I guess my question is, because when I look on the soundtrack, you said that there was nobody from Jersey, but now is there two different versions of it? Because I saw a different version that had Jersey.
Redman is on there. Redman's on there.
All right. That's it?
Yeah. That's it. I mean, like, I went to the label like, yo, how is they having a movie about this and we're not even on the soundtrack or nothing? This, I think,
that's ridiculous.
Because it's before high. What if it's before high school high? I think either way, I hit them up like, this is crazy. And when I saw the CD and the track list and everything for the test press, I said, wow, they got everybody from New York on here. I love these songs, but we ain't even knowing there nowhere to be found. Like, even when when the mayor said that he didn't want them to shoot it in Jersey because he didn't want to glorify, that car theft, because at the time it was hot. A lot of the stories that was in the movie, it was all broken stories and they put them all together. It was kind of, I didn't understand that. But a lot of the stuff that happened, these was real. I remember the one time a stolen car was up and around. I used to lived up in by Seton Hall College. That's by like South Orange, Maplewood, before you get to the borderline going up there. It was a car, Acura Legend. And Acuras was the car to steal. Yep. Back in the day. So these dudes it was a TV repair shop, The street was called Dover Street, and there's where the bus turn around to go back down to downtown Penn Station. So these dudes is like maybe like 1, 2 in the morning, and they crash into the repair shop, and they pulling back out. I'm just coming in the house, and I ran back out on the block. I see the car pulling back, and it's tearing the whole gate down off of the building, and they get that off, and they go bouncing down South Orange Avenue. And that same car, that next day I woke up, and I look at the newspaper, and I'm watching the news, and they just smashed into these girls in a vehicle. These females coming from a party, killed all them in the car. Big accident. And, you know, this was kind of like the start of pretty much a whole summer, maybe 2 summers, where you just had these dudes going wild, stealing cars and carjacking. You know, it seemed like we invented that out here, you know, where it became a epidemic to a point where the police even couldn't chase these guys because the police was killing people too, trying to catch them. So they stopped
that's
that.
the thing.
So, you know, yeah, it was real bad for a minute.
Why the obsession with stealing cars in Jersey versus New York? Because it was easier to dump them? Was it easier to dump the car?
I think it more was like a thing where you had these guys was maybe like, I'm talking about from like 10 to 14, they were little kids. And they doing shit that was like where they wasn't gonna get in trouble so much, but like go, you know, they wasn't smart enough to go all the way up to the Bronx and go to the chop shop and sell parts and stuff like that. You know, but a lot of these dudes was stealing these high-end cars. I'm talking about NX7s back then. I'm talking about BMW. We talking about they would go to the ports and steal these cars. And what they started doing was selling the cars.
Right.
And you know,
I get that.
Everything right off the lot. You know, they all them shit's hot. So they just giving, you know, doing that or selling. Once they started understanding the parts cost certain money, they would strip the cars all the time. But a lot of these dudes were just doing it for, you know, they were seeing themselves on cops, getting chased by the police, and it became a game. You know, it was nothing but, you know, for these dudes, joyride. You know, once that episode of Cops came out where these dudes was in the park, the Weekway Park in Newark. And I don't know if you remember this, they was in a Honda Accord. This dude jumped in the whip through the sunroof, but the car was moving and the police were chasing him. He dove through the sunroof, sits down, and they escape from I mean, they bouncing through the park. So these dudes know where to go. So, you know, even around here, going up to South Orange, they started closing streets off. They started throwing up the bumps in the road, you know, just to stop everybody from going through these back streets and different ways. Even in the park, they changed that all around. So, you know, the police, it was ridiculous. It was crazy, you know, and they would go up to, you know, the middle class areas and go up to, you know, these places in the mall and white towns, and they steal their cars, and they're stealing everybody's cars, you know, and it was bad. It was bad.
I got my car stolen, not in Jersey, but not out there, but we had a town near us called Lawrence, where Rex was from.
Yeah, where Rex was from.
And that town was one of the main spots where your car would get dumped. Wow. You'd find my car. I had a Jeep Cherokee. I went to the gym, came out of the gym. My car was jacked. I had a nice system and everything, and they found it in Lawrence, and that was a thing for a while in the '90s as well up here. So
they ripped
Lawrence
it apart. They ripped it apart.
Oh, there wasn't much left, man. There wasn't much left. And so, you know, we were dealing with that up here too. Maybe not as severe. We didn't have a movie, but I think Lawrence might have gave, you know, might have got a bronze in the car theft. The car theft.
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
under Newark.
These dudes out here doing, I mean, donuts in the middle of the street, stopping traffic.
Yeah, that was the joyriding of it. That's what kind of blew. Yeah, because it wasn't like they were stealing it in dumping it and stripping it. They were taking it out, cruising around and acting like it was theirs.
but they would dump them cars and get another one. But see, back then, the cars they showed in that movie, they was nothing like them cars. We talking about Hot Wheels cars, man. We talking about like they was going up, and that's what I say in these towns up where we don't go. and be up in
Over
people's
upper class
driveway.
communities.
We did, and even the car lots them itself. But see, because the Acuras was easy to steal. They even started showing all this stuff on the news. They showing how they popped the, you know, stuff they was using, and they started getting smarter, and they started popping it with the screwdriver, and you know, using the screwdriver. Just one screwdriver do one thing, everything. Pop this, pop that, pop, pop, pop. Yeah.
The
They using that
screwdriver.
and then they start using that little Jimmy stick thing. So it's just like, you know, until the cars got smarter and they started putting the low jack and all that OnStar, you know, it became difficult. And cars companies started getting smarter.
What a free for all.
Yeah, I mean, like
free for all.
especially when if you ain't got no alarm system, even that, it didn't matter if you had cars, they would look, bro. They would pop the hood and know how to disconnect the thing from there. Where like you probably hit, it's off. And these dudes out in the night, and your dope ass car going too.
System too, and the systems were big too. They could strip the systems.
Yeah,
back
that's
then.
why I said, "Fuck, we ain't just trying to take. Let's just take the whole car, leave from here, and do that shit somewhere else." And a lot of the times, it would be in New York, or like maybe on the highway, certain places like Jersey we got a junkyard area. They take that shit down there, and look, because you know how we know, because a lot of people when they need parts for their cars, when they have an accident, they go to the junkyard. And they found everything new. It's all down there. Maybe different color for your car, but it's down there.
Yeah, I used to get my parts at a junkyard many a times.
Mm-hmm.
In New Hampshire, junkyards were predominant. Cheap, you get parts cheap. You just had to know how to take them off.
Right.
So back to the music. When did you meet Tame? When exactly happened? How did you meet Tame One and form the group?
You could thank my man Polo Weiss and Jay Byrne. I say this all the time because that was my connection with him. Because me and Jay Byrne went to school together, and I just knew Ice, you know, through the neighborhood, and you know, he was a dancer. I knew people he knew. We became friends, and that's when he started telling me about Tame. Jay Byrne started telling me about Tame just from his artwork and everything, but then I already knew about Tame just seeing his name on the wall, like everywhere. So, but Jay Byrne was like, he knew I wanted to do music. So me and Jay Byrne is on the song on Attack of New Jerusalem on the first album on Between the Rock and the Hard Place.
Listened to that last night.
Right. So Jay, you know, he's like, yo, I'm gonna send you to Rhino's crib. You know, you go over there, start doing your songs. You know, and Rhino was like the beat maker in far as our crew, like the Molly Mall, the Juice Crew, and he made everybody beats. So we
Rhino.
Yes, I'm a CMZ, Rhino CMZ, Z is in zones. But I would go over his house after school on the weekends. And once I started going over there, I started noticing Tame's name on the wall. And I was like, yo, he be over here? He said, yeah. I said, he rap? He said, yeah. So he played me his songs. I was like, damn. And the dude was just as nice back then as even until he passed. So it was like, okay, you know, he said he don't come over here all the time, but you probably got to catch him. So I caught him one day when I was there. He came in and we got to know each other right there. I think either that day or the next time we came back, we did a song. And once we did that one song, we did another song. Mind you, I had demos, he had demos that we already had been working on. And once we met, I don't even have those songs at all. Rhino probably got them, but we just scrapped all of that and then went right in and started doing what we was doing.
Right. And you guys got discovered
about like 80, 88, 89.
Right. And you guys end up getting discovered on the Stretch and Bobbito show.
Right. So I never thought about the timeline of all this stuff. So when we met like 88, 89, we started doing demos for like 2 years. And 92, 93 is when, you know, 93 is when we get on Stretch. But Tame did the phone call first, and they invited him then. Even if I called the next week later, it was just from what he had did. So that was like, you know, 93. So, and right after that, you know, we get the deal. But then we do the Nubian Cracker song, Do You Want to Hear It? That was like, I never look at the date of that, but that's toward the end of 93. Because 94 and 93, after we do that Nubian Cracker song, we started recording the record into 94.
Right.
So everything went fast. Like when after we signed the deal. So, you know, we everything, but because it was so like thinking about your life before all of this happened. And then you think about at that time it did happen. That's what my life been from the time we met, and just all that stuff started happening.
So this is 93 when you start putting together the first album, right? Correct?
93, 94, we working on it, yeah.
Right. So West Coast music is completely dominating at this time, right? Right? Fair to say that Dr. Dre, Chronic, Snoop,
yeah.
G-Funk, you guys are, right. So you guys are actually on the forefront of this East Coast boom bap sound that's about to shift. But you guys are kind of in the beginning of that. Where were you getting your influences from to make this music? Because if you're looking at mainstream hip hop at the time, it's not what you made. You did not make that at all. You did not make G-Funk. Right.
So
where were you getting the ideas?
Ours was you know, Tribe Called Quest.
Right.
Like P-Rock and CL Smooth, main Source, Gangstar, you know, all of these albums that I'm naming, Midnight Marauders, Low End Theory, you know, Daily Operation, you know, even DOS Effects, EPMD, like all of the heavyweights up until that point is who we were listening to and what our guide was to what we felt like tier-wise, what our music should sound like. You know, if not like close to it, like where we right in the pocket. But the thing that we did was, even when we finished the record, the label was like, yo, so like, where do y'all want to go? Y'all want to do an East Coast promo or West Coast promo? And this is at the time you talking about. So we was like, fuck it, let's go out West. You know, we from home. Why are we going to do that first? Let's do the hard thing first. But what we found out was the only thing that separated us from Cali was the gang life. And that was it. Everything else, if you take that out of it, and us not wearing certain colors and taking, you know, being mindful. But even with that, we met all that stuff. We met all these gang dudes that like, so me and Tame's record pretty much for LA was like how it was for more than home, I would say. Because Cali's so big. We met a lot of gangsters out there. We met so many people from all the colleges. Just our first big show out there at Unity, Bigger B, we found out that like a lot of people was like us, and whatever stereotypical thoughts we had in our head about Cali, being out there, just that shit was out the window. Like, you know, I got to understand why, you know, alcoholics were who they were. I got to understand why already, you know, knowing some of the members of Hieroglyphics, once we got to Oakland and got to meet Dell and, you know, we got to chill with all of them, you know, because we met Pep Love first. So to see all of this stuff and even to meet with them and Casual and all them, they was like us. Alcoholics just like us. All the underground music that come out of Cali, they were just like us. And even meeting the people that were doing the gangster music, they were still just like us. They just did different music, even than the people that's there and what we do. But we got to see that a lot of people embraced what we was doing because they wasn't too far from removed from all of these records too. Like, so that's why when you see EPMD back in the day, Big Payback video, you see Easy-E and NWA in the video with them, even for a quick, you know, flash. It showed that, you know, yo, hey, look, damn, they listen to East Coast hip hop too, because that's all they heard until they started doing their own music. Right. And you see that in the NWA movie, but because all the music in the background is all East Coast music. So, you know, and when the time came for us to go there, when all of that was happening, you know, it was like major acceptance for me and Tame to even see that these people even liked our music and we wasn't from there. Right. The sound on the album, producing wise, who produced the first album, Rock Place, Between a Rock and a Hard Place? Well, the majority of the record was T-Ray. Todd Ray, he's out in Malibu right now, but Todd Ray is from the South. He was doing a lot of Double X Posse, records at the time. He was about to work with us. So we knew of him working with Cypress Hill at the time. But Ty was doing some heavy metal music too with a group called Helmet.
Oh
So
yeah, I
he
know
was
Helmet.
doing,
Very
yeah,
familiar with Helmet.
exactly. So he
Love
was doing
Helmet.
a lot of that. See?
The white boy in me loves Helmet. You know what I mean?
But look, but everybody knows. So that's why I was like, I told Ty, like, he was well rounded, but he was good with his sounds and stuff like that, and mixing and stuff. So he had an extended damn catalog of records, crazy, in his basement. So Todd became a good friend to us and to us because he really gave us our sound. Majority of the album, besides the 3 that Buck Wild had did, and Redman did one. So
did Redman do the one that he's on?
Yeah, well, on the hook, yeah,
Yeah,
he
the
did
hook.
that one, and Rockweiler was with him too. So we was all in the studio. But I remember the day.
Go ahead.
I remember the day Redman gave me the beat. I was on Grove Street in Jersey. I was at home in Newark. I'm waiting for the bus. He see me standing there waiting for the bus. He's like, "Yo, get in the truck." And he's like, "I heard you. I know y'all got the deal, L. I want to play you a beat." And it was kind of a little bit more raw than what he got it to be what it is. But I heard the drums, and I just knew that was the loudest thing of the beat was the Bismarcky in the background and the drums. It was crazy. So he said, "Yeah, don't worry about the sample. That's Quincy Jones, but I got that. Don't worry about that." So I said, "Man, I just love the beat," and we actually used it.
Yeah. The sound on that album, man, is just so like quintessential 93, 94. I think it's just like, if you want a depiction of that sound from that area coming out of the East Coast, man, your album is like, that album is just amazing. And it still holds up today. I mean, I listened to it last night again, just to touch up on it. And I was like, it still holds up. You guys still hold up. That album is like, it doesn't sound dated. It just sounds classic,
And it was, that's the thing we wanted to do, because we didn't know we were going to do it. But once we started doing it, and I would say like certain songs we was doing, and the way we was approaching, me and Tame had no approach to it to say like, all right, we're gonna make this song, this one be a couple of songs was demos that we had did, but changed around because we had got new beats to it, but we never went in with some kind of plan. So like when we was doing it, I remember we did the listening party for the label, and we had a few magazines there, a few DJs there, and they would listen to the record. And maybe after when it got the wrong side, they just kept asking them, can you play that again? You play that again? Play it again, please. It was like, 8 times, because everybody in the room was either a DJ or a writer or somebody like that. But they was in the culture in that area at the time, and they just kept saying, "We play it again." And the people at the label looked at me and Tame. Well, it's safe to say we know what the first single going to be, because we thought it was going to be one of the ones where, like, we didn't make a bunch of songs that were kind of like anthem-y, except for like say "Come On with the Get Down" at the time. But like once we did that and they heard that, they was convinced too. So a lot of these records, we just try to not emulate, but just say at least let's make our own record so we could have. Where I've had the pleasure of listening to, say, like Hard to Earn or Daily Operation, where it didn't matter what I was doing, I would look at the credits, and even though they would stay the same all the time, I didn't know none of these people on the record, nothing like that. I just felt like I needed to know who did what, and it just, that's the experience we want to have everybody else feel when they played our records.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, for people outside of your area, like up here in New England, it was like a hip hop heads album. Like not everybody that listened to like hip hop knew about this album. So it was like this underground, if you knew album that only the real hip hop heads had in the 90s. You know what I mean? And that was what made it even more special, because not everybody knew about it. I'm sure you guys wanted more people to know about it, but it was like, yo, you got that artifacts. Like, if you know what I mean? It wasn't for everybody,
And and we knew that, but like we also didn't know how many more people did know until we started going on the road. And we was up that way a lot. We used to come up there a lot. Whether we was up in UMass, we did some tours up there. We did a lot of Providence, a lot of Rhode Island stuff. You know, even DJ Scribble was up there with us when we did a few shows up there. You know, so it's like once we started touring though, is when people started recognizing a lot more. Even when we started going to Europe, you know, getting over there, and people, we got a lot of exposure. We still go back and forth over there until a lot of these things happen. So I'm actually getting to go back this year finally after since 2019. All this COVID shit happened. So I'm ready to go there. But like these are the things that we knew was going to help us, and people at the label even started telling us like, "Yo, look, you know, no matter what, y'all only doing what y'all doing because y'all out there on the road." And I see, because this was the guy who was in charge of the, you know, sales and stuff, and see what everything changed. So he would say every time y'all would go somewhere else, I'm telling you, it would change. Even we would see little bumps and stuff like that as far as in the music, but we just knew if we wasn't doing that, we wasn't surviving. Right. So that's how we mostly got the name, the record out there to the people.
Yeah, that's how it's done. Still, people overlook it with online stuff, but it's still a very important part of the process. It's still very important part of the process. You got to get on the road. People got to see it. You know what I mean? I want to go back to Redman real quick. So always the rumor was that he was related to Tame, but I heard that you denounced that rumor.
Yes, that's true. It was never, you know, people out here knew that it was not a truthful thing. You know, so it's like, you know, anybody that thought that, you know, that's because they wanted to, you know, but a lot of people knew that they wasn't. But I would always tell people, like, when you have your best buddy back in the day, and y'all be blood brothers, y'all cut your hand and cut up and do the little whatever. Yeah. So they was like cousins through music, but their connection was strong. I can't deny that. That is known fact and truth. So, you know, but you know, a lot of people know.
You're right.
And a lot of people didn't know. I found out too.
Yeah. I want your opinion. What's your favorite Redman album?
Damn. All right. It's easy though. Tales from the Dark Side.
There is the Dark Side.
There's the Dark Side. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, good. Me and you agree.
He don't like when I say that though. He don't like when I say that. He hate when a lot of people say that.
That's so weird to me, because to me, that's my favorite album. I mean, Muddy Waters is great. I love Muddy Waters.
Got the hits on there.
There's great songs on that and that sound. The first
one crazy too. The first one too. But
time for some action,
Side, man. He did that record was like one long mixtape, because it was like when the first couple of songs came in, it was like no structure. It was just like bong 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 bong. And he didn't. It was like no 3 verses, no hooks, and shit like that. He was just doing that shit.
Right. And it's like the sound with Sermon doing the production, and you know, if you smoked weed, that album is.
Yeah, that album was for you.
I was smoking a lot of weed.
He said he don't like that record because he was on acid and he was high and stuff like that. And I said, well, you did a damn good job to be high on acid when you made that record, because when you think about it, so like in the beginning is like all over the place, but it didn't get to certain points of the record where it get normal, you know. But then it'd go into some old,
right.
So
what it look like?
Yes, exactly. But he hates.
I love that album.
I think he just secretly say that, but I think he loved it.
How can he not? Who made it? How do you hate the album
actually, he went in the booth and then said all that.
So the first album comes out, you know, you're on the road doing your thing. What happens between this album and the second album? How does it transition into the second album? What's different about the process coming into the second one? That's
because we spent a hell of a lot of money mixing. A hell of a lot of money, brother. Mixing this first record. Because
why did it cost so much money? I mean, I know back then studios mixing, it was a lot more expensive with the tape and everything, but why so much money mixing and as opposed to recording and producing?
Because I think back then mixing was very important. When you talk about, say, like with Tribe albums with Bob Power, you started learning mixing engineers' names and stuff like that. So that was like really pride taken into a lot of mixing. Troy Hightower, you know, Rich July, a lot of people we worked with. After I worked with them, I started finding their names on other people's records where I'm like, is this either because we was got their names from somebody else? These people got his name off of our record, and I started paying attention to that. So, with T Ray, a few of the songs that we did have that we wasn't sure of, and the main one I think would probably be Way Back. That one took a minute to get right because we had different samples in the records where I would say early on, because the way we used it and the way we did it was different from anything that probably was like far as a scratch, but we had it integrated in the song, into the hook and stuff like that. So like when it got to the end and just the certain things with the snare, and it was just a lot. I remember we did that song a couple of times going in the studio, but when we got into doing the second one, we just wanted to have a whole different sound from the first one. Not saying we didn't try and do with the same people, but we just wanted to have a whole different land and soundscape for the next one, because I felt like that's what you're supposed to do anyway, And
Right.
I'm like, if we're going to compete with all these other people and be able to put records out, we got to do something. So I'm still riding off the wave of all these artists that I named anyway,
Yep.
in the beginning. So just to stay in the wave, so then, but the more people came, and more people. So when we came, was also Helter Skelter, Smith and Wesson was relevant already, Black
Fire.
Moon. So you're talking
Fire.
about like Beat Nuts is out, Common is out, Organized is out. So we
Incredible.
toured with them guys. So you still talking about competition wise, we have to still be in up on this level. So
Absolutely.
we found Sean J. Period, and
Oh, dope.
and Sean, always used to come to the studio when we did the first one. And he always used to tell me like, "Yo, I'm gonna get my beats up. And and he started doing a lot more. And when he came to us, when we was doing, I think we did the first songs with VIC from Beat Nuts, and we worked with him. And we started. And Sean knew this, and all of these guys know each other. So once we started working a little more, Sean came to the studio, and we had a session with him. And he had some joints. So when he did like the Artifacts joint, the way his skills at. So every time when we would do one song with him, he would play like 10 more beats. But like all of the beats that would be like straight hot beats was like number 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. All these,
Even.
even numbers. And we like 2 sessions he did that, and when he did it again, I was like, "Yo, Sean, let me ask you a question." I said, "Do you keep doing that on purpose? Like where it's like 2 is dope, 4 is dope. I ain't saying the other one's not dope, but you made sure like these ones was cracking." So he said, "Yeah, because when y'all first started picking the beats, I started paying attention to that. So I figured y'all was either doing that on purpose or just the fact that I saw y'all was noticing that those numbers was the ones." I was like, "Well, keep doing it," but because it kept working. So we did the songs we did with Sean because we learned so much from the first one. The one thing the label hated that we did was right in the studio, which was nothing for me and Tame, because we did so much within ourselves. And chemistry wise, we didn't have time to sit home, and because we had different lives. So I
Yeah.
can catch him to sit home to do stuff like that or whatever. You'll come to my crib and we do. So we know we get to the lab, we doing it. So when the second album came and we did all the songs with Sean, we got to do weekly songs with him where we had like some chemistry with him too. But me and Tame also was listening for the shit that he was giving us. Like we was like, wow, okay.
Right.
The thing that we felt like made Artifacts music was us not sounding like nobody else, have no beats that sound like nobody else. So Sean was that because he was like nobody else either. So he
Right.
was new and nobody really had him at the time. So we got to do a lot of magic with Sean. And then we had VIC, like I said, B minus did some joints. Baby Paul did a couple of joints. So this record was a personal record for us also to work with other people that we listen to as far as other artists, like I said, with Smith and Wesson and Black Moon. So we got to do that with Baby Paul and B minus Evil D and Walt. So, Beat Nuts, we fans of Beat Nuts. And we got to do that with VIC, even with Brick City Kids. We got to do that with VIC and Juju. So we were just really feeling like we had to step it up, even sonically with the record, which worked, even though a lot of people didn't feel that record as much as the first one. I would say later on, because you got to understand, we was going through a breakup at the time we had that record out. So, and I wouldn't say breakup in the way of, like fighting wise, but we was fighting with the label to do a lot of stuff we was asking them to do, and we didn't feel like, you know, they was doing that, and the label didn't feel like we was giving them enough to sell to push us a little further than where we was.
So you guys broke up because of the label disputes?
Yeah, you know, in a sense, because, you know, you got to think that, you know, we getting ourselves on tour. You know, we're doing a lot of stuff to maintain in our own circle what we can do, because it wasn't like they had somebody doing that for us. So I would say because the sales wasn't probably registering up to what we was either doing or what they were doing, and you got to think, you know, a lot of other things were happening with me and Tame where like getting tired, man. It was like personally we were getting tired of doing what we was doing. You trying to get a machine to do the things you need to do, and they acted like they didn't know a lot of things where they felt like they could help us. But then after a while, we felt like, all right, we see where it's going. You know,
Right.
no matter what we try to do, it was just more or less always us climbing that ladder to, you know, get them to understand like y'all can do a little bit more.
Right. So then you decide to go solo?
Yeah. We just, you know, we spoke about it, and we you know, and slowly went our own ways, and that's when we started putting out our solo records and stuff like that, which was like I told Tame when we did get back together was a blessing for both of us. Actually, at the time, we probably both needed that, you know, even to find our own self, to see what we both brought to the group, and getting back together, what came from that, you know, and
Right.
what we didn't make them same mistakes that we did. We did more out of Atlantic and off of that label than we did when we was with it. Even with it being a big machine, we did a lot more from, even with it not being, oh, because when that first joint, you know, we didn't see a lot of what we, you know, saw when we first came to the label, of course. So, but
Right.
we did other things outside of the label and getting off there where we were still able to put out music. It wasn't so much for a lot of people that come from our era, and where you can still
Right.
make records today, even.
You were like owned back then. Like your name was
Right.
owned and
And
like
we
you
was,
just
you know,
owned
and we,
everything you did.
yeah, once we got off, we was like, damn, what we gonna do? And once we, but see, but because we didn't do it as a group to say, what we gonna do, let's do this. It was
Ah,
solo wise, like, you know, but that's what I'm saying. To be able to do it after we broke up, and to both of us had learned a lot more and did a lot alone,
yep.
to say what we won't do again and what we agree to do. And what we agreed to do was the part that shine more than the shit we did in the past, because we understood both what we was able to do today compared to what we did in the past. So that's why
Right.
even the record sounds like the way it do as far as the new one. You know, me and Tame did a lot of features with a lot of cats. That's, you know, you can even put that in online on YouTube for anybody that's watching that will watch this. You know, we did a lot of music with people that you wouldn't think we would do music with, and being able to do one with Marco Polo, Back to Work, Port Authority 2, you know, that was like, you know, one of our records that we felt like, you know, because he knew who Marco Polo was. I was like, yeah, we really, really back now. That was like
Right.
2013.
So there was never really any animosity between you
None,
two in the breakup?
none.
I think
Nah,
there was like
because
a rumor. I felt like there was a rumor that there was.
you know, I would say people, you know, when you have different camps and people roll with each other and people roll, you know, say so down with this one or that one, you know, it could be things that could be said, but I always tell everybody that nobody ever saw me and Tame fight. Nobody ever could say they saw me and Tame yelling at each other. We
Right.
never really had arguments and stuff like that. Anything we ever did was internally taken care of, but never something where we couldn't handle it on our own like men.
Right.
But I wish that we could have done that as far as say, but when you're young,
Right.
and you don't know everything, and things are above your head as far as what you may understand and what you don't understand
Right.
from you working with a big machine like that. You know, I think that it was probably better for us to go through what we went through, you know, because when we started doing newer shows, we had solo records to do, we had artifact records to do, you know, so that made the shows even better. But it showed me and him both what we brought on our own to the group, because when we got back together, we were still able to do all that shit and still do our older songs even to get to do newer ones that weren't our records, but were on other people's records. And even when I had, as far as a solo one with Rodiga, you know, anything that I ever did, I included Tame in because I knew that, like, people knew, like, we was dope by ourselves, but we was great as a group. So I always made sure to put that always out there, and we always, you know, when we recorded, we always thought of that too.
Yeah, I started doing shows in 2004 in Boston. One of my first shows was Leak Brothers, which was Tame One and Cage. And then some other shows, which was Slow Suicide Stimulus with Tame and his side
Charlie
group.
Yeah.
He cops a deal out here with one of the distributors. I forget the name of the album. It was Amalgam Digital.
Yeah.
He did songs for me. He did features for me and my artist Right Hook. You did songs for me. Tame calls himself the New Jersey, the New Jersey Bastard. What was his album there? The old New Jersey Bastard.
Yeah.
I saw him wilding from that period to, I remember being like, he is going crazy right now. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna throw it out there because he was saying it. He was saying it. He was saying it.
It's safe to say because you went through it, and I always tell everybody.
I watched it.
Even in life, we all have things that happen that we all see and notice, but it's undeniable because it happened to you. So we all have, and I always say everybody got a story.
So I was saying, it's like I was wilding too. He was wilding, and you know, he had some performances there that, you know, I don't even know if he was conscious. But when I saw him get back with you, and we did a show, reunion show, like it was around 2008, 2009. It was different. It was like he was rooted again. You know what I mean? It was like, and no offense to those other guys in those other groups in that crew, because, you know, it was just a different scenario. But when I saw him back with you, it felt like he was centered again. You know what I mean? And I can't speak for his behavior, but when I saw him on stage with you doing those shows, I was like, oh, this feels better. This feels right. You know what I mean? Artifacts is back. And I think that just kind of maybe centered him a little bit. You know what I mean? He might not having Artifacts. I think as much as he made different music, I just still think he, you know, working with you and you know, gave him a good foundation, I think, from what I saw. I could be wrong.
And that's good. You're right. I'm going to say you're right, because the thing that you got to understand what came with that was me and Chaos. You know what I'm saying? And
rest in
even
peace.
certain interviews we had done, you know, in the past where, you know, only with me and Chaos, Tame would have his, I would say, moments of clarity where he would feel even comfortable enough to even say that. And me and Chaos would look at each other like, wow, he just said that. Wow, okay. So it was, in my mind, I was like, yo, he do know. He know, you know what I'm saying? Dude, people know.
Right.
But like, when you have things that surround you, that's not me and Chaos.
Right.
You know, you have people that may not say have his best interest at mine at times. Right. You know, me and Chaos did. And the thing that with me and him that he knew also was that when me and him did do that, it was always like, yo, if I rock with them, I'm gonna have to work my ass off. Nothing's gonna come easy, but at least he knows everything gonna get taken care of. There's nothing he's gonna have to worry about. He's gonna get his money. He gonna get everything that he's supposed to get, rather than him be with some people that may not give him the same thing or have the interest of knowing or saying to him that, like, yo, maybe if you don't do that shit, it ain't gonna be good for you. So a lot of things that, you know, me and Chaos was his brothers, you know, and like brothers, sometimes you don't want to listen to me. And I wasn't even the big bro, you know what I'm saying? I'm the little big bro. So sometimes you don't want to listen to the little big bro. And, you know, and you, like you said, that time period that he had, I can honestly say, like, you know, me and Tame didn't talk for a long time. Like,
see, verbally, that's why I thought there was animosity.
Yeah, nah, it was just more or less.
I could understand why.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna tell you why. Right now, I was more or less like, you know, Tame, look, I didn't know none of the stuff he was really doing, so I kept it that way. Right. It wasn't a lot of the Instagram and Facebook shit when we was going through that time period. So it was a lot of MySpace, but still no interaction. I would hear stuff here and there, but because I was focused on myself, I'm trying to survive my own self. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so that to me, I was like a horse with blinders. So I didn't really care about it. So I just kept going. I'm over in Poland. I was overseas a lot. So I was just really trying to, but with social media now, over the last few, say like even with Instagram and Facebook, because now Facebook is Instagram, when it started getting bigger, and say like 2000, I can't remember when Instagram came, but after a few years after, everybody really started getting on it, and more people was noticing what I was doing. And even when me and Tane was back together, even 2012, we was doing a lot where people knew more now than they ever did.
Right.
So because people never saw us like that, where it was ever a vision of the motherfuckers was mad at each other, they was yelling at each other. It
Right.
was
Right.
never that. It was never no beef songs or nothing like that. So like
No.
people just imagine like how can they be like this when they did these two. So at home, you can imagine. So like when we did get back together, and I'm talking about like no communication, nothing, bro. So when he
You.
came up, we was in the park, and it was Rocksteady crew was doing the shows in New York, in Jersey. So I talked to Crazy Legs and the people that was involved, so they knew what was going on for the last week, for all that time. So they was like
Yeah.
Crazy Legs, like, yo, okay, we put you on L, da 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 da. I'm coming down there to do my show. People see me, I see Tame, I see him walking around. People see him walking around. They're like, yo, they go Tame right there. I was like, I know, I see him. I'm going to the stage. So do it all. And my man Malik was texting each other. Like, yo, we can't let this go down, yo. Like, so do it all like up there on stage with me. Like, yo, L, y'all need to cut it out. Y'all need to cut it out. So I'm getting text messages in my phone while other groups is performing. I'm waiting. So I see Tame out in the crowd with Malik and them, and then Do It All goes to get him. So I'm on stage now about to do my show. I probably think me and Chaos did like one song. And they brought him up there, and he walked up there, and when it's a picture, I got the picture and everything of his foot on the speaker, and I'm looking at him, and the whole crowd is like silent, bro. They don't know what's gonna happen. Dude all gets the mic. He's like, y'all gonna stop this shit today. We're gonna make this happen today, yo. No more of this shit. So everybody in the crowd, he's like, you could hear a pin drop on the grass. It was so quiet. I was like, dang it. So and Kane was looking at me. I looked at him, and when Dude all said that, we shook hands, and it was like I don't know, like not an earthquake, but like a bolt of Thor lightning hit that park, and it was like boom. Everybody started screaming when we shook hands. I mean, like I saw people crying and weeping and shit, like, oh, that's what we're talking about. But it happened at home. It wasn't somewhere else. So when people saw that, you know, even for people like yourself, that watch Tame, and I know he went through a period. You know what I'm saying? So it's like to see that happen, even, and then after that we do another show next year and the year after. It became for everybody else that we was really an official hip hop group rather than just L and Tame from New Jersey.
Yeah, what a powerful thing, just come back together like that,
Right.
And what I love about that story is everybody, all the other artists in the community were all behind it too.
Yeah.
So often you see, hip hoppers, rappers and other things are too competitive with each other, so they don't give a shit. But your community did. They're like, come on, knock that shit off, and really were the catalyst about you guys getting back together.
They didn't. When they was like, my man, dude, I was like, yo, I'm not letting you do another song without.
That's amazing.
And when we shook hands, what Chaos do? My DJ Chaos looked at that shit, then threw on songs right from there.
Oh, like you never left, right?
We doing a full damn show, like we ain't lost a step, and everybody
Awesome.
like, see. So that's how it's supposed to be.
So a lesson to everybody: don't hold grudges; they're not worth it. Everything can be resolved.
Yes, they can. Especially when neither one of us was rich or nothing. So it should have been easy to do that, right? We both broke it down.
No one's rich, though.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, so man. So rest in peace, Tame, and rest in peace, Chaos. I mean, talk about that, because you lose. Not only do you lose close friends, you lose your business partners.
Right.
That's got to be tough to go through. Talk about that.
Yeah, I would say the one fortunate thing about that was through the breakup, you become creative and you become your own because of not being able to do the group.
Right.
So you do the best thing possible. Have your best life as a solo artist. You know what I'm saying? Have your life as a person that is trying to reinvent himself through what he was in a group. And that's all I was doing. And I knew that's the only thing I could do. And make good music. Make good music. That's all. Make good music and make good music, but don't make the music so much far away from Artifact's music. Still emulate that. Still emulate that because there's nothing wrong with that. It was never anything wrong with that.
Nothing.
It just that we had, things that happened where we, I would never look at us like an unsung, maybe a little bit, not say more today, because I'm always still active, but because of us being a group, I always got to remember that when I go on stage, it's never going to be, like, yo, bro, I've done shows many still today that I have to look back at the DJ and know that it's not chaos. And even before these shows, I got to tell this dude, like, yo, stop here. Watch me when I go like this, because he's not chaos.
Right.
I have to know that, it's going to be some DJs that may not be as DJ as much as chaos was, and know they're not. I'm like, yo, dude, don't be afraid to do some drops in between my rounds right here. Know that when the hook, if I'm doing this song, if you know the song, when they get to the hook part, just know, have the other record ready. And I've had guys that be so in the moment and they don't care about the next thing I got to do because they just next. And look, I'm looking at them like, looking at them, I'm waiting for you, boy. And then if they not
You're like,
looking, I always tell
yeah.
them, yeah. Look, I did it in Vegas. This dude was doing that, and his man was standing next to him because he's looking down and he's not looking at me. He's just scratching away, and his man is tapping him on the shoulder. He's looking at him. I told him, I'm like, look at me, look at me. So from the show, from that point on, he was good. But it's just that I always tell him to pay attention because I'm not with Tame, and I'm doing one verse. So unless and it's gonna go, I'll let you know if it's, I'll have the beat already set if I'm not first. But I always tell them, like, when it gets to that almost that hook part, look at me, because some songs might be some songs gonna be, I'm gonna turn around and go stop. So but I have to give these instructions. So that's the one part about this that I never liked, even when I did tours where Chaos couldn't come with me and was here. So it was like a constant thing because like everybody don't have the money to either fly him, but I started making it mandatory that they flew him because I would tell them, like, yo, if you want the show you want without this guy be here right here, and I ain't got to look back, shit. Word, I was like, you gotta fly him with me. And then that's when they started doing that. Chaos was happy about that, so because he's like, yo, I hate being home and them dudes out there DJing for you because I know they ain't doing what they supposed to be doing. I said, yeah, a lot of times, yeah. But it was just the way it was. But I changed that up a lot. And that was to me the growth and what me, Tame, and Chaos had. Whether if I was putting the things together or not, they was like, okay, like, look, let's be this group, man. Come on, that was the thing for me. Let's be this group like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be professional. Let's be these dudes that people always want to work with, and rival groups want to be scared of, and people from New Jersey could be proud of. That's all I ever wanted for me and Tame and Chaos. I say that a lot. I knew what we was as a group, and I always pushed that. Even when some people didn't respect that what me and Tame and Chaos did as a group. And I say that in to say like the inclusion part. A lot of festivals we wasn't a part of. Early on, I tried to get the Rock the Bell shit back then. It didn't happen because but everybody got their favoritism. But when the motherfuckers see you somewhere doing your thing and they see you like, oh, like, yeah, late. You know what I'm saying? So like that was always the thing for me and Tane. I always felt like when people saw us do our thing, I remember we did what's this out there in Texas, South by Southwest. We did that 2011.
Oh,
Smashed. I mean, like, but the kind of smash where you say, is motherfucking people in the building. It's like stars in the building, stars that think they stars and in the building and see that shit happen. Soon we walked on stage. Primo was right on the turntable about to get on right when he was like, and that's what the fuck I'm talking about. And he's like, and the motherfucker do graffiti. And that's all he said. That's all he said. And he went on and played his record. And so, like, for me, that's like, it's always a thing of validation for all artists. But for me, it was a validation for me and Tame to say, because we was on a major, and a lot of people look at when you get tossed off a major or you get released, that your career is done. And I always tell people like, nah, you know what I'm saying? Like me and Tame have done way more solo off that label, being the way we have been free, been free to work with any damn body. You know, we was on mad different basketball teams. People don't even realize we had 10-day contracts with everybody. But
I saw it.
We was getting around, and because we wasn't stuck to one, we was able to go to Germany and able to go here and go there. So, and do one-offs and stuff like that. So, and I had a home. Whenever I had a home, Tame had a home. So whether my home was Redef Records, whether my home was Coal Mine Records, whether and vice versa, or if it was just somebody asking for a feature and we jump on their shit, it just, everything always was doable.
Right. You know, you talk about being an independent artist and you have a great humility to you, which I've always appreciated. You have a level of acceptance of your rap career as an indie artist. Most rappers hurt themselves by not accepting that. You know, they want to be a star. They want to be huge. They want to be, they're mad at what they're not. You know what I'm saying? Whereas you, I never got that vibe. You were just a down-to-earth, humble guy. It is what it is. We're going to do the business. What it is. And it's just such a great model for the independent game. And I see so many people with their egos screw up their career. Where did you learn and get that mentality because of humility? Because you're one of a few that has that.
When you go through some struggle of things that you thought was going to be.
Right.
And you stop doing certain shit for this thing that you want to do. And because the thing you were doing before that was good for you. When I got into doing this, I said to myself, I'm going to make this shit work. I'm going to make it work. No matter what I get, I'm going to make it work. And I never looked at being on the label as the only thing that would work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I knew that I was confident enough to know that even if we get off this label, and I told Tame, like, even if we go solo or not, we can still do whatever we want to do. Do whatever we want to do. Because we wasn't locked to nobody. Even when we was on the label, we was so good at what we was doing. The label was like, yo, we want to fuck with them. But certain things keeping us not to do that. So, like, you know, so it was like, good. I got our blessing. You know, it wasn't, don't bother them. Let them do what they got to do. So, because I knew that, because not just of my talent, not just because of what me and Tame, a lot of what me and Tame laid on the table for ourselves, I said to myself, all right, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. But I'm not going to think that because I saw stuff I saw, even being at the label, you like, he's corny. That motherfucker's corny as hell. I don't like him. You knew people that was down for you. Like when you be on a label, it's like a real fucking basketball team. You'll see coaches or assistant coaches on teams that'll go somewhere else and get shipped off somewhere else. You have a guy that's working there that you cool with, like, I have to trust him. He's gone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We only have one. My man Rob Tula, Daddy Reef was the only dude we had like that at the label, but he was there even when we was gone. So it was nothing even he could do for us when you got something like that going on and against you. Not against you where they don't want you to win, but because you're not doing enough.
Right.
So I'm like, look, shit, doing like this over here, doing enough is the least you could do. Right. So I'm like, all right, if because in my mind, I'm like, shit, it's always promote and go. Do music, promote and go. So if anything I learned from the label was that preparation, give them the shit, make sure they got everything they need, all the credit, whatever. And once they get it, the thing yo, I'm gonna do my part. Y'all please to do your part. So that's always what it has been with me, of a not say spoiled thing, but having that part for you. And this is the thing, like you said, a lot of artists make mistakes of doing is not doing their own thing, rather than being used to something somebody was doing and letting them do the thing when you in charge of the shit now. And a lot of people, you find out, don't want to be in charge of the thing.
Or they just don't have that skill. They don't have that skill of being organized. You know, you're lucky that you have this skill, right? Like Tame didn't have that skill that you have. You know what I mean? That's what separates you on that level. You know, in my opinion, you're a very self-sufficient individual.
That and with that, knowing that that's possible, I'm knowing, like how we say, know your lane, know your strong points, know your strengths. So and to this day, people still think one strength is rhyme. You can fucking rhyme your ass off. You can rhyme your ass off and not know shit, not know what to do, who to talk to. That's why you need somebody there. But it's rare to have somebody there. Like I always say, if I had two of myself, then even with that might not work out. But I always said with me and Tame, we was like that sign, that yin and yang. We was this dude.
Right.
He was a fish, and I'm an herb sign.
Right.
You know, a lot of things Tame did different than me, but like when I got him to listen to me and understand, like we need to be here. Even if you want to be here, I'm gonna push your ass to go here. We're gonna go here. Even if you don't like it. When we get here and when we chilling, you know what? I probably want to do that shit, but you're right. So these are the things that a lot of people that I know I do, a lot of people not gonna do because they either got too much pride, they don't want to do it, they feel like somebody else need to do it, and because they feel like I'm already doing the wrong part. Nope. If you wouldn't have to pay that person there, if you was able to just get yourself to do this, pay, and it's all mostly a money thing.
Right.
Merch is a money thing. That's a real money thing. When you talking about keep making, so that means now you're like, oh shit, I gotta keep flipping this. Yeah, don't have inventory, don't do it. But in order to do this, people don't want to be online on Instagram and Facebook doing that. Like they feel sometimes some people they feel like they're doing the most, they feel corny, they feel how is anybody gonna know what you're doing if you don't put it up?
Right.
If you go to morning, noon, night, late night, everybody sleep. Unless they just like you up Batman, Batgirl, and superhero and up in the streets, and you come home in the middle of the night, or if you just a Dracula. Dracula go to sleep at night, in the day he wake up to do his thing. You know, a lot of artists like that, they work in the studio at night, but it's like, if you're doing all this, what are you doing it for? If you're not doing it enough to have somebody know what you're doing to purchase something from you or buy your music.
Right. I want to talk about your merch because you put out some new merch lately. That's great, but you have a very interesting way of ordering it. That's not so non-traditional. Because I tried to order something, I have to email you apparently to get that. Talk about the merch you got going on, because I gotta get a Scully after this.
No doubt. So I'm gonna tell you, this is what I learned. So I had the buttons up there when I first did it with my man.
Yeah.
I had everything here. I had all the colors and everything like that.
Can you show up the stuff you got? You got it over there? Got anything you can show?
I got some stuff downstairs. Most of the stuff downstairs. But I got some stuff here. I got some of the Scullies here.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I need one of those. I need that.
Yeah, this the Army green.
I'm gonna email you after this.
No doubt.
That's dope.
You know, I started noticing that a lot of this stuff people were trying to order, I didn't have, even in sizes and stuff like that. So I'm like, damn, I'm not a factory. I don't know if these people think that I got all this stuff all the time. So, and almost by mistake, it happened. But I told my man, I said, you know what? Put this up here saying this, that, and the third. So like, I don't want people thinking that. And I say, you know what? Actually take the buttons off when you do that. So they don't just go ahead and do it. So I'm like, Nim is just now. A lot of people have this issue. When people feel like you're a factory and you're a manufacturer, and you just have this shit laying around all the time.
Yeah.
When you're doing it in a way where you can do it the way you're going. So when that shit start to get too big for you, and it get in a way where people start knowing, and you put something up like, yo, I got a web page and a merch page, and they like, okay, that means it's like a store. That means it's like all the time you have. I didn't have it all the time, so people started respecting the fact that I did have that up. So at least if they email me, I can tell them if I have it or not. Because when I didn't have it and I had to order it, and then I was like, I ain't gonna be able to do this all the time. So let me just put something up saying that I got it. Call me first. Hit me up first.
I like that.
Hit me up first before you start
Al,
doing
you got any more of those? You got any more of those larges, XLs, hoodies?
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff. Because I got a lot of small and medium stuff, but big, all that large, extra large to it, all that should be going quick. So it's like people won't know that. So I'm like, look, I have no shame. Like, hit me up first, because I've seen a lot of shit go south where people sit there wait. A lot of these dudes don't get back at them, in time, and people done spent money already and shit like that. Like, yo, I done ordered something like 3 months ago. Somebody at least gonna say to me like, yo, I ordered something a week ago and I ain't get it yet. You know what? Because I have so much going on, I probably ain't see that. I'm gonna hook you up, and I'm gonna give you a marker and some whole bunch of other stickers and stuff like that. So fortunately, I have had not a lot of things go wrong. I've done some orders wrong. I will say I've had to send stuff to different address, maybe because sometimes some people don't update their PayPal page, but I ask everybody when they order too to put your address in it, because I get a lot of DMs. I ask them to put their address in the DM, and if you ain't got it in your thing, update your page, because a lot of times I'll be doing a lot of chasing people down because they order something and don't put it won't be no address, nothing, and then I'm looking for them, and then because the rules changed on PayPal, you can't just email somebody from your PayPal thing no more. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to the other way to get on PayPal to email somebody that, yo, you didn't add your address, B, send me something so I can send it to you. So we all make mistakes. So I'd rather not make a mistake by saying I got something and I ain't got it.
That's the best merch advice, if anyone's listening, I've ever heard.
Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, before we wrap up, I want to talk about the new album real quick, No Expiration Date, which is the Artist Facts first album in what, 25 years?
25 plus years,
yep. 25 years, produced entirely by Buck Wild. Talk about the album, making it, and releasing it post after Tame released, that passed away in Chaos. Talk about that, just the whole process.
Well, the thing I'm happy about was Chaos was alive when we started making this record.
Right, good.
He was in the process of the beat making, beat picking. Buck came to my crib. Me, him, and Tame sat down, and my man Joker was here because I was introducing him to Buck to let him know that he would be doing a lot of the recording. Buck came with the beats that we actually did for the record. So we maybe changed maybe 1 or 2 songs, but the things that the beats that he gave us was the album. We did it when I was first started. It was hard to get Tame here because I would actually say I didn't know he was working. Tame had a structured life at a time where I didn't know until he told me. I'm like, wow. I was like, yo, I didn't know you could have told me he was working. So then I started understanding his schedule. I knew his better times was on the weekends or whatever. So in that time where I couldn't get him to come like I wanted to, I just started recording my verses. And he came to the crib when he finally came, and he heard one song, and then he's like, okay, you're not doing your part? I said, my part done, just watch. And he just plugging yourself right here. So then the next song came, same way. And then so that was the first time me and Tame never really wrote together this album. So a lot of the stuff I had already had recorded already. The hooks already done, cuts already in. So pretty much it was just up, on Tame to do his part to do the record. I just made sure he got to the crib, whatever time he said he was gonna come. We just coordinated everything. And then the songs just came to be, recorded, boom. And me and Jokers, we put a lot of stuff together. A lot of surgery went on on some joints, and a lot of re-recording, where we wanted to get it right. So once Jake Palumbo got it in his hand and he started mixing, the record, became exactly what you hear. And I remember my man Joker heard the record. Joker said, wow, is this the record? This is the album that we recorded in your basement? I said, he's like, no damn way. And I said, yes, man. Like, the one thing I love about doing records is the process. When you see how when you start, the shit sound gutter crazy. I mean, you don't realize how much magic and listening and knowing what you're doing goes into mixing records, and Jake was doing that. And I've seen that go over the years, even with me and Jake mixing me and Sadat's record. You know what I'm saying? When you listening to that shit, when you record it, you don't realize how dirty and grimy it is till you start getting polished up and leveled off and all this shit like that. So like, Tame got to hear this record before it was actually released, like physical. You know what I'm saying? He heard it, as far as digitally and stuff like that. And it came out, if not on August 20th, it came out a couple of months after, but he heard it. And he always would say, man, damn, this shit sounds crazy the way it sounds. Like, I don't believe it even sound like this. And before he passed, he came to my house in October, maybe. And he just like, yep, I came. I was, before I went to LA, he came to my house, yo, play the record, and play it loud. Just play it real loud. So he was just sitting there looking at me, and he kept staring at me. I said, what's wrong? He said, man, this shit sounds so crazy, bro. He said, I ain't had nothing to do with it. I said, yes, you did. He said, no. He said, I rhymed on this shit. Nigga. I ain't do nothing else. So you putting this stuff together, and like these, like I said, Tame had moments of clarity where it would surprise me. So he wasn't like the biggest emotional guy, but when he felt to say something like that and speak his truth, I paid attention, and I appreciated it, because when you're a man of few words and you don't have your emotions on your sleeve, when it happens, you understand how much it took for that to happen. So to get him to be that way and get him to understand that he had people around him that wanted him to be good, that wanted him to succeed. And even with him listening to that record that day, he looking at me and my man, he was like, yo, bro, this shit got me like, oh, he just jumped out of the chair. I mean, he jumped out of the chair, bro, hit the ceiling fan, started stomping around my living room, just like, I started screaming. I was like, look, and my man looking at me like, yo, I'm like, nah, man, let him do that. Whatever he got going on in his body right now, let him do that shit, because that's how he really feels. So I always believe that was really him. So that record to me, that's why I'm still pushing it. That's why I got 2 more videos I got to do for it. All this shit gonna be done. When you got something like that happen, you got to start getting creative. So I didn't want to just start throwing shit out there just because he had passed. I'm like, no, let's do it right. So when people look at it, they be like, oh, hell yeah. He actually took his time and didn't just throw something out there. So it's going to be nice.
That's incredible, man. I'm glad you got that moment there. That's amazing. We all should be so lucky to have moments like that.
Yeah, man, because like if you let everybody else tell your story and you let everybody else tell how things are and they're not, people will believe anything. So that's why, I'm always be the one that people should talk to when it comes to anything like that about me and Tame, but not just because I'm in the group, but because that part of him I know most, and a lot of other people may know him better than in certain forms than I do. But when it comes to this, I know that was what we had, because it was not just me and him; it was 3 of us.
Amazing. Rest in peace, Tame. Rest in peace, Chaos. And Al, thank you so much, man. I'm gonna wrap up, but I really appreciate your time. And as always,
man, thank you, always. And we know we always gonna have business, and I
Yep.
thank you and I appreciate you as well.
All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning into the Leedz Edutainment Podcast. It's a very special guest, Elder Sensei from the Artifacts.
Yeah.
We'll talk soon, brother.
Peace.
Later.